Hey everybody, welcome. We're in here for the Power Up with Microsoft 365 tools. I'm going to give you a little fun fact about something Ben talked in his speech in the other room about our FlexCare. FlexCare fun fact is ThreatLocker is a new offering within FlexCare. ThreatLocker puts you in control of what software, scripts, and executables and libraries can run on your endpoints and servers. This becomes another important layer in your overall security. Today we have two presenters, Tate Helfenstein and Mike Pagán. Tate is an infrastructure engineer at NCI. He's been an infrastructure who's all in on Office 365, which I think you'll notice today, and Intune, all Microsoft products. He's a professional nerd who loves solving tech puzzles and making systems run smoother. When he's not deep in authentication configs and mobile setups, you'll probably find him gaming or geeking out over new hardware. He likes things quick, direct, and dialed in, just like his work. Mike is a senior solutions architect and Azure product manager. Over the past 25 years, Mike has worked in many areas in information technology and uses this experience to design and install solutions for our customers. A majority of his experience in server software, hardware technology, such as VMware, vSphere, and Microsoft products such as Exchange Server, Windows Server, Active Directory, remote desktop services, and virtual desktop services. Along with his server experience, he works with Cisco networking, Citrix virtual apps and desktops, Veeam backup and recovery, and various server and storage hardware. Most recently, Mike has been designing and implementing cloud services, including Microsoft Azure 365 and Azure Active Directory. Today, this is going to be a briefing based on real-world scenarios where they'll demonstrate how you can safely run your business from anywhere within secure, comprehensive, AI-powered cloud solution that makes hybrid work, right? So they're going to go through Autopilot, Intune, mobile applications management, and Teams Premium. Welcome, Mike and Tate.
So I want to apologize for the length of the bio. When we were asked to write them, I thought they would go in like an article or something and not be read in front of a presentation. Next year it's going to be about that long. So today we're going to talk about 365, really. We came up with this presentation because we find a lot of users, a lot of customers have 365, they have licensing, and Microsoft keeps adding more things to the different licensing bundles, but as soon as you get email, we all kind of stopped at some point in time. Oh, great, I got email. I don't have an Exchange server. Okay, now they added Teams. Okay, that's pretty cool. But now there's a bunch of other stuff on there. But much shorter introduction is solution architect, Microsoft apologist. I've worked in Microsoft products forever. My first certification is Windows 95, so that dates me a little bit. Recently, I've been very interested in security, so I've done more cybersecurity certifications and learning things, so I'm kind of becoming a cybersecurity nerd. My golf swing isn't that bad, but I definitely enjoy golfing, but I haven't been able to go and do it that much anymore since having kids and work and stuff gets in the way. But hoping at some point in time to get back to where I was, almost average golfer. So. This is Tate.
Yeah, hey everyone, Tate Helfenstein here. I'm an infrastructure engineer here with Network Center. Like Mike, everything Microsoft, I'm pretty much in love with, for better or for worse. My first certification was 365 Fundamentals, and I was born in '93, so just to kind of put a day between us. My self-given nickname is Mr. Intune, so that's kind of what I love to be in as much as I can, but outside of work, I would call myself a typical geek or nerd, I guess. So I play anything, most video games, but anything Nintendo. I love and enjoy it. So.
All right. So what we're going to cover is we're going to talk about Business Premium. We think it's the best licensing bundle. It's definitely one Microsoft is aiming everybody for. Most of us are small businesses, so the enterprise levels of E3 and E5 are very expensive and come with a lot of features that we're probably not going to take advantage of. So we're going to highlight that. We're going to talk about Windows Autopilot and do a demonstration. We're also going to talk about mobile application management And then Teams Premium, which is a part of the 365 ecosystem. It is not included in Business Premium, but we've been using Teams Premium, and if wanted to highlight that because it is a inexpensive add-on, and I think it has a lot of impact for how you can use Teams in general. So start off, we're going to talk about Teams Premium. If you aren't a licensing nerd, this may be, you haven't seen this type of graphic before, but there are a couple of different bundles currently in 365 in the business class. So Business Basic, basically online services. You don't get an installed version of Office on your computer. You get a mailbox, you get Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive. So that's really inexpensive, it's $5 or so a user per month. And then you can install it on your computer and use it on there and not just use the web apps. The next one is what we're going to highlight the most. It's all of those things before. It includes some additional features, the big one being Intune, and the other one, which isn't highlighted on here, is Entra ID P1, which is Active Directory, Azure Active Directory P1. That unlocks some security features which are really critical, we feel, in securing your business and controlling who can access your systems. And then there's this odd duck, 365 apps for business. If you wanted to rent Office to install on your computer, you can do that and not have any other services. We don't see this used very often. I think I know one customer that has it, but it's an option if you don't want to purchase Office. So this can be a bit of an eye chart, but these graphics are from m365maps.com. It's they're created by a Microsoft employee, but it's not official Microsoft documentation, but it's about as close as you can get. Out there, you can find a graphic like this on every license bundle that's out there. So Teams, SharePoint, Defender, all of those things are out there. On the left-hand side is Business Basic, and on the right-hand side is Business Standard. So those are basically the online-only bundle, and the other one on the left is where you get to install the Office app. So the one on the right is better because it has more boxes, right? But it really does come with Office. The bottom here is Entra ID free, but that gets us your identity. So if you were an online-only business, that's your username and password, how you authenticate to your system. Let's see. They added some kind of goofy ones, Clipchamp and that over there. The box I highlighted up top there is Microsoft Apps for Business with no SCA. That's shared computer access. So this license won't work on shared computers, basically, or things like remote desktop. If you try to use this on a remote desktop server, your users are going to be unhappy because every fifth sign-in, somebody has to push a button to reactivate Office. It's not a great time. Users don't like that at all. But the other great thing about this, if you go and use it at any time, if I were to click on this button, it would take me directly to the Microsoft page, the documentation about that feature. So we use it a lot. It's a great tool, and anytime if you have any questions about what's there, the packages have been pretty stable over the last year and some, but it's only a matter of time till new things get added, and they jumbled this up. So here is Business Premium. It has more boxes and more colors, so it's much better. In the Office 365 section, we have things like Compliance Manager, e-discovery standard. So if you're ever in the unfortunate situation where you have to do e-discovery for legal action, there's some more tools in there for that. Defender for 365, Plan 1, which is like anti-spam and security for your online exchange online. Information protection, again, it's another security feature that kind of adds on top of all of it there. There is Microsoft 365 Apps for Business with SCA. So this is the license on top of E3 and E5 where you can use this in remote desktop for shared environments. that's important. In the middle there is the Enterprise Mobility and Security Suite. That's something you can add on yourself. So if you had standard, you could add on mobility and security. But when you start adding these separate packages together, it's more expensive than just getting premium. So that's why we kind of steer everybody towards this. Application management is what Tate's going to demo. So it's basically controlling applications on your phone, MDM, MAM, those types of things. And it's not necessarily just phones. It's Windows devices, Macs, any endpoint now can be controlled by Intune. In the Entra ID Plan 1, this is a really critical security feature, a security bundle of licenses you can get. You have multi-factor authentication in all 365 packages. This grants you the ability to control it with conditional access. So you can say, with free, you can say it's on or off. With this, you can say, if you are coming from this IP address, from this computer, it's off. Because we all have users in our organization that's like, I'm not going to do that. Okay, but you have to. But I own the business. Okay, you don't have to. So we're going to make an exception. And conditional access is the type of thing that allows us to do that. On top of it, you can do very complicated rules. With Intune, there's like device health. If the device is healthy and it's coming from the United States and it's using this particular web application, now it's allowed, or it requires this additional types of multi-factor authentication. So that's really, really cool. You get single sign-on to other SaaS apps. It's the ability to use your authentication to enter those identities to sign into other things. We all have SaaS applications, Salesforce, a training platform, those types of things that can connect to your Entra and use your standard everyday credentials. So if you control the SSO, like I want to use a FIDO key and a multi-factor app but not allow text messages, that app uses your identities to get authenticated. So you're not relying on whatever they have set up. Maybe they only do text messages. You don't want to do that. You can control what that is and see all the logins. And so that's really powerful. You can do something temporary access pass. If you need to set up a laptop, which you're going to do in our demo, I don't have to know the username and password. I can push a button and get a password that's valid for an hour or 4 hours. Log into the device, do whatever I need to do, and then that password dies. And it goes back to that user. Regular credentials work also. Third-party MFA integration. If you are a Duo shop, you want to use Duo to do your authentication in 365. Originally, I would have said don't, because it just seems like another thing to get in the way to cause problems. But they have the integration working really pretty well, and you can mix and match. So if you have a certain amount of people that need to use Duo, like vendors or something, and the rest of your users, you want to just keep it in 365, you can do both. And it's pretty streamlined. Windows Autopilot, which Tate's going to talk about, there's some rights to Windows Professional. So if you have a professional version of the previous version of Windows, you can upgrade to Windows 11. So if you had 8, you get free upgrades from 10. So this is to be honest, kind of an odd thing to include. But on the right-hand side, a little bit cut off, is Defender for Business. So that's Microsoft's XDR, EDR security suite. And I think anybody who's been doing security or been working on computers for a long time, we've all joked about Windows Firewall, and the first thing we did when we got on a computer is turn it off because it was crap for kind of a long time. It just got in our way. They've invested a lot of time into it, and it is now a well-renowned, has a lot of accolades in the industry. And if you think about it, it's built into the operating system. So compared to like a CrowdStrike or a SentinelOne or something like that, it's going to have the best telemetry and the best access to anything that's happening on that device. In fact, Arctic Wolf, they will use the telemetry on it. And if they see something from MDE, they can lock down the device through Defender, and where their agent may not have seen something. So it's a legitimate product, and it's free. Like, it's already included. Well, it's not free. It's included in the licensing you already have. So depending on what your security goals are, you can, if nothing else, just use that for telemetry and use another security suite on top of it. It isn't such where you have 2 antiviruses sitting on the system and fighting. if it detects another antivirus, it will turn off the firewall portion of it and just feed you information. So that's this. I'm going to let Tate talk about this, and we're going to do a demo, and I'm going to be Vanna White.
Yes, okay, so Mike's gonna be my Vanna White. He's going to, on this laptop, fresh out of the box, we're gonna use Windows Autopilot here to actually set it up and get it configured, join it to our domain, install a couple of apps, and the goal here is just to see who's faster, the setup or me explaining my next two sections here. Now bear in mind we are on a hotspot, so mileage may vary. It could be not a good plane. Oh, we timed out. Type it in again.
You should see this password he gave me, too. It's ridiculous.
He's actually using the temporary access pass, and so in my defense, I don't get to set that password. It just spits something out at me, so why he's mad at me, I don't know. So it will kick off here. And once we see it setting up our device, we can switch on back, and I'll start stalking. Boom. All right. So Windows Autopilot. When I was asked to pick a 365 thing that I really like to do and configure, I thought really hard about like, what service do I really enjoy the most? And I decided on Autopilot, mainly because as a technician, it lets me be a little lazy in the sense of how I discovered it at my previous IT job I was at. I got drop shipped 35 Surfaces on my desk, and I got told set them up. If anyone's ever dealt with a Surface, they kind of stink. I don't really like setting them up. They're a great device, but getting drivers and stuff like that, it's not the easiest sometimes. And now I have 35 of them, and we were a 4-man shop, so I also had to do like help desk. So to try and focus on all of that and do that wasn't going to happen. So instead, I spent probably a little too much time trying to figure out the system, and then I got it to work, and now I've fallen in love with it. Now that I know how to do it, it's pretty easy to configure for myself and get it out into the public. So what is Autopilot? So previously, when we got new devices, we might have had something like an imaging server, used MDT, maybe you had your own product out there that was doing this for you. But the downfall of those imaging servers was, one, you had to spin up a server. You had to then manage that server, make sure it was secured, patch, do all those things. And then typically you had to build a golden image for your device. The issue with that golden image is that golden image is for this Lenovo at this model number. If there was one specific model number off, you would have to find another driver pack for it and potentially build a whole nother golden image. Now, as much as we all want to have the exact same model of laptop in our whole entire fleet, typically doesn't happen just because we're on different rotation periods and laptops are changing quicker than I can think. So ultimately, the tech then has to manage this MDT server, this imaging solution, for potentially one device, which ends up just being not very efficient. So overall, this management, this upkeep equals money because you're paying this tech to do this time, or they could be potentially doing other business moving ventures. Maybe they're spinning up a new product. Maybe they're doing something that will streamline your business so you can make more money quicker. Those things, but instead he's worrying about this machine. So Autopilot, how does it work? So ultimately, wherever you purchase your devices, if that's through a network center or you have a vendor of choice, you can partner up with them, say, hey, we're going to be utilizing Windows Autopilot. And what they will do is when you make that purchase of that device or a bulk amount of devices, they can actually connect into your 365 tenant and upload all those devices into your inventory. Or they can give you a CSV file that will contain what's called a device hash. And that's what gets put into your Autopilot inventory. Once that's in inventory, when that computer checks in, if you've ever gone through open box experience, and we kind of skipped that part a little bit, but when it turns on for the very first time and goes checking for updates, it's not actually looking for Windows updates. It's talking to Microsoft and saying, hey, do I belong to anyone? And if it goes, yes, you work for, you're a network center computer, it'll automatically then connect an Autopilot configuration for you, and then it will take off on the setup. Benefit of kind of that is it does an activation lock, if you're familiar with that term with like iPhone and Mac and stuff like that, where now that device is bound to your organization. So if someone does attempt to like steal it and wipe the machine and try and put Windows back onto it, it won't necessarily be a useful device for them unless they had credentials to get into the machine from a known user. So now that we have that in inventory, us, the IT professionals or your service provider, can create these configurations that will then tell the machine how to deploy out. With Autopilot, you can go basically in 2 different paths. You can go Entra only if you're going cloud native, which Autopilot has a little bit more beneficial features if you go specifically cloud native. You can go hybrid join, which it's fully supported, and I've done it for plenty of companies. So it will connect to your domain controller. It'll get authorization to domain join this PC for you, and then continue with the flow. So Autopilot, at the end of the day, what it ends up doing is it just connects it to your domain, either Entra or on-prem, and then connects it to Intune, and then Intune hands off and does the rest. It'll deploy out all of its security profiles. It'll deploy out all your applications, and the end user will basically get a nice little screen right there where it says setting up for work or school, and they can't use the device until it's fully configured. So the benefit for you in that regards is that the end user can't touch their network, your resources, until they have a fully secured device. Once it's at desktop, that means all your applications and policy that you require have been pushed to that device and it's ready to go for that end user. So if it's a existing employee and they already have a laptop, you can just drop ship that person if they're remote or at a different satellite location. Like your IT doesn't need to touch it. They can just log in and then work on their existing device. And then once they see that at desktop, they can just kind of flip flop. And now they got a brand new machine and they're off to the races. If it's a new employee, you give them the device, they log in, and then typically we go through like a Zoom or a Teams orientation. They get to learn about the company. By the time they're done with that first meeting, they have a fully functioning device. So again, your major benefits then, what you're getting with this is ultimately you have not to worry about golden images because it's not imaging the device. It is taking the stock OEM configuration from either Lenovo, HP, Dell, or wherever you're purchasing from. But it will configure everything that you need to go to it, so your apps, your policies, and all that stuff. And if you're worried about like bloatware from those vendors, there are scripts and ways to, in the Autopilot configuration, to de-bloat Windows, so that OEM profile is a usable experience for you guys. If you do have a dedicated partner with like Dell or something like that, and they can do like a specific enterprise image, that will still work. And basically those enterprise images are just a clean OS that doesn't have any of the bloat on it. Still fully configured and you can do it with it. But now your tech doesn't have to worry about setting up those machines. They can go do other projects, which is awesome. And then the big benefit is Intune's the driving factor of all this. So as you're updating your applications and your policies in there, to keep your fleet secure that's out there, you don't have to worry about your new fleet coming in because they're going to get those same exact policies. So that the cycle just kind of feeds itself. You don't have to worry about just the imaging side of things. If I keep my main line up to date, my new computers coming in will also be up to date. So it works out really, really, really well. So then I was asked to talk about a second one. And then I was like, well, okay, what else could I talk about that's pretty powerful that we all have to deal with? And I thought of Intune mobile application management. And my little thing is, ma'am, do you have email on your phone? And ultimately, the reason why I'm talking specifically phones, even though, like Mike said, it can do computers, Macs, all your different endpoints, is most organizations end up putting work email on a phone. And depending on where you're at, some of those organizations are not providing for that phone. That is a bring your own device. So then we kind of need to talk about the different states of devices. So the most common one that we hear of all the time is BYOD, and that's bring your own device. So that the employee owns a device, and I am bringing it into my network, and I'm allowing it to come on in. And normally we're enrolling it into Intune, or maybe you have an MDM solution of your own. But then you are taking control of specific settings. Maybe you're forcing like a PIN, maybe you're forcing specific updates and stuff like that. And now you have a little bit of control of that device, but again, it's not yours. CYOD, very similar to BYOD. It's ultimately choose your own device. So you as an organization go, you can bring your phone as long as it's an iPhone at this OS, or you can bring that if it's an Android at this OS. I don't care what model or what version of like Galaxy S5 versus whatever, but as long as it's on the right version of Android or right version of iOS, you can bring that device in. Next one is going to be COPE, or company-owned, personally enabled. This is where you're going to start seeing businesses start bringing in devices to give to their employees. My previous job did this, where they gave me a cell phone, but they allowed me to do personal things on it. So ultimately, the goal for the organization is, I want you to be available 24/7, so I'm going to let you do personal stuff on this device, because if I don't, I know what you do when you go home. You turn it off and you throw it in a drawer and you don't see it again. And typically when we do that, then come in the next thing, you need that phone and you forgot about it because you're just not in your mindset. So by enabling them to do the personal stuff on it, they're going to be more dedicated to hold just that device. And then the final one is COBO, or corporate owned, business only. This is when you get a dedicated device that is only for business use, can't do anything else on it. Now we talk about these states, but there's actually a fifth state, and then that's that shadow IT out there. So that's typically that iPad that so-and-so is using for email, or maybe they're remoting in, and you didn't know existed out there. And ultimately, it's very, very hard to protect the resources and the different items in your network if you don't know what's actually connecting to it. So I could be having my iPhone that is a fully protected, fully supported device, but at home, I might have an Android tablet that is 10, 15 years old, has vulnerabilities up the wazoo, but I'm using it at home because I could do it, nothing stopped me. So ultimately, again, hard to protect what you don't know exists. Second scenario, story time. You have an employee, his name's Tate. Tate's kind of a jerk, and by that is, you tell them that he needs to have email on his phone, he needs to put the authenticator or Duo on his phone to enable him to do work. But Tate goes to you and goes, you don't own my device. You can't tell me what to do. Like, this is my phone, get away from me. You're not putting any of your stuff on it. Ultimately, the tinfoil hat theory, maybe they think us IT people just like to sit and look at logs on people's phones and see what they're doing all the time. Trust me, we don't care, unless you give us a reason to. But they fight you on it, and so now you can't make sure that device is secure, or how they're connecting to your resources are secure because they're fighting you on it. So what can we do? How can we save this? And that's where Intune Mobile Application Management can come into play. So there is MDM, Mobile Device Management, that's enrolling it into Intune, that's enrolling it into your MDM solution. And then there's MAM, Mobile Application Management. And how I always kind of differentiate between the two is MDM is focusing and targeting on the device. MAM is targeting the application or the domain itself. So by having mobile application management in your environment, when an end user attempts to log into your domain, may that be Outlook, SharePoint, wherever that looks like, the moment they connect, they get told that they need to have certain security practices on that application. So I don't care anymore if they have a PIN on their phone, but I care that they have a PIN in Outlook. Or I don't care that they can copy and paste out of their own email, but they can't do it in my email. And so I don't have to require them to install another app such as Authenticator or Duo per se to use it as a MDM solution where I'm fully controlling that device. Because the other part of it, on the IT side, when you think of MDM, if that end user was kind of a jerk and you need to let them go, whatever happens, you know, us IT professionals, we get a call from HR saying so-and-so Tate is getting fired at 4 p.m., please disconnect all of his services. Well, when you log into the MDM solution, there's typically 2 wipes. There's the goodbye everything wipe. I'm going to wipe the device back to factory reset. And then there's the wipe the business data. And they don't do a really good job at telling you which one's which. And so you kind of like do the sweat, you research, you try and figure out what you're doing, and then you just kind of blindly click it and do one of these. And you hope you click the right button, because if you fully wipe that device and the person's getting fired, that end user's probably not going to have a good day with you. And so now I'm going to kind of show a demo of what that kind of looks like here. So my phone is not MDM enrolled, but it is If we want to, oh, I need HDMI. Whoosh. Boop. Flicker. Beautiful. Oh, sweet, first try. All right, so this is my cell phone here. Typical iPhone on everything like that. So if I go into the company portal, I just kind of do this as an example. I'm not signed in, so just proof that I am not MDM joined. It's not tied to Network Center in any shape or form. But I'm going to hop into Outlook. And what's going to happen is instantly, because this has mobile application management policies on there, you see that I'm required a PIN or Face ID. But then it's going to pop up there and say an organization, you're not allowed to screen share or record. But I'm still in Outlook, I promise. If I click on that and I go into my Google account, yay, you get to see all my Google stuff on there. So even though that app is multi-functioning for both my Gmail account and for work, by flip-flopping between the two domains, you can't see what I'm doing. And then, like I said, then you can have other certain policies and stuff like that, so they can't like copy and paste data out. So I'm just going to grab a blurb from a message there that I got sent, and we're going to start a new email, or a new text message, excuse me. I'm going to try and paste that data out, and I'll just get a little blurb saying that you can't do that, it won't let me do that. But now if I were to take that data, and again, you're not going to be able to see this because I have it protected in Teams, but since Teams is also a managed and protected entity, I can freely copy and paste that data between Outlook and Teams because those are both business managed. I can now log into and do a demo of like wiping the machine, my phone, in about 5-10 minutes, which we won't have time to kind of see that. But then it will just fully take off my 365 for my work email, but my Gmail in my Outlook will still be not touched. So the end user experience doesn't change. I can still use Outlook as my primary email. Because if you've done MDM, you've had that happen before, where they were using Outlook before, and now that you're protecting it, like, well, now even my own email is more difficult to get into. You don't have to have that interface happen with it. To do mobile application management, depending on the device, there is a broker app that does the policy push out. So you need to have Authenticator installed on the phone in the sense of just being on the device and push your policies through. But you don't have it to be, it doesn't have to be the MFA solution. You can let it, a Duo token or something outside of it be there. So they don't have to fully actually sign into that and have it be monitored per se or enrolled. Alrighty, and that is kind of that. That looks good. So if we want to flip back, I'm going to hand it back over to Mike, and Mike is going to talk some Teams Premium, and I'll get this rolled. Ultimately, it looked like it beat me, so.
Bloop. So we'll take a look at it in a second. But so now we're going to talk about Teams Premium. This is not included in Business Premium. It's an add-on to Teams, but we've been using it for a couple of months now. And if you have employees or you yourself are in Teams meetings all day, it can be really helpful, because if you're like me, you're in a meeting and you're doing most of the talking, and you're not taking any notes, or if you're supposed to be taking notes, you're not taking notes. And if you have a really busy week, you get to the end of your week and you go, what did I do this week? You'll see here that it can really help with all of that. So Teams Premium, here's all the features you get in it, again, from m365maps.com. If you've ever had a Teams meeting from us, if the person has a Teams Premium license, you've seen that it's logoed. It doesn't look like a generic Microsoft Teams meeting. So if your company likes to standardize on branding, things like that, this feature gets that, enables that. If you've never looked into Teams, you can do like town halls and like large meetings. So you can replace like WebEx or Zoom for like corporate broadcasts of like product announcements, things like that. Live caption translation, which is neat. Everything has to be transcribed, but real time, if you work in a global organization and somebody's native language is in English, they can speak their language, and near real time, it will transcribe that into English or whatever yours into their language, which is crazy. And some other bits and pieces here, but I'm really going to focus on the intelligent recap. So here's what that screen looks like. These are Microsoft slides. Now you'll have a meet button where after you're done with the meeting, if it was launched by a Teams Premium license holder, at the end of it, the meeting has to be recorded and transcribed. It will sit and process it after the meeting, and you'll get a notification that the meeting recap is done. And then here's all the information you can get out of it. So you'll see it, you can click on it, click the recap button up top. You can see things like who spoke. And if it's your organization, it does a very good job of picking out your named users in your organization so you can see who spoke and when they spoke. You get a little DVR type timeline on the bottom there. Sometimes you have an issue with finding, it just doesn't recognize somebody's voice pattern. But if you've ever trained like a voice system into knowing who you are, in Teams there's a spot where you read the quick brown fox, do that kind of thing, and it picks out your enunciations and alliterations, and it goes, oh, it puts a voice print on you, and then like speaker one becomes that person. External parties, it's going to be speaker one, speaker two kind of thing, but it is a very good job. Sometimes you have to go through it and tune it up. It tries to pick out topics that you've talked about, so it looks for things like mentions. It looks for when somebody joined a meeting. So most of our meetings are half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, something like that. But in corporations, sometimes they're 4 hours long. So if somebody's joining and leaving, that will show up in like chapters and topics. I haven't quite figured out the logic between all of it. If you're doing a PowerPoint presentation, it tries to sort out when you're talking about budget. Okay, now we're talking about future planning for next year. It's smart enough to pick that up because it's transcribing everything. So the engine behind the scenes is picking all those types of things out. And there's the dreaded notes tab where you can type your own notes if you happen to be good at that. I'm not. So the AI notes is where it goes through and takes the transcription and turns them into notes. It will recognize who was talking and what they were talking about. Examples in there about talk about a product release and on the dates and things like that. But on top of that, it's going to sit and look for action items that somebody said they were going to do something, or a task was assigned to somebody. It tries to pull that out of the transcription and puts that at the bottom. So, which is really fun. If you're not in the meeting, you can see who volunteered you for things, because that's all in there. And then up top we have like mentions. So if it knows your name and your name was mentioned in a meeting, you'll get a little in the meeting recap. It says you were mentioned 3 times. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but if you didn't attend the meeting, you can hop in and see what was in what context you were mentioned, and then you can get the full transcript. So if you want the whole text of the meeting, you can certainly have that. And it's great because you can copy and paste it out. So we like to use it to kind of be our note taker, especially for action items. So if you're having a meeting and you're talking about a project or something like that, if nothing else, take those meeting notes and put it in a ticket or set it in an email. Like here's what we were talking about doing. So everybody's kind of on the same page. So again, we see the different speakers from this example. Up top, I highlighted them. They're usually not this color, but you can see the 3 @ symbols. That's where, in this case, I would have been mentioned in the conversation. So I can go through and I can press play, or I can press the button and go directly to that spot where my name is mentioned in the transcript or in the audio, and just see what was mentioned. You can see the blue one is where screen share happened. So if somebody was sharing some content, that's played out there also. Again, we're talking about the AI notes. So like the notes and the mentions, like originally, I'd say like in the first month or so that we're using this, it was so. But now I think it does a really good job, because IT is kind of a technical thing. It's one thing. The example they always give is like marketing or sales, and there's not a lot of like acronyms or product names and that kind of stuff, really, I think, in kind of like generic sales meetings. But I've been using, since we've been using this, and I'll have a transcript of a customer meeting that we have. It picked out like the product names. It generally got what we were talking about. So it's certainly evolving. You know, as Copilot gets smarter, that AI engine behind the scenes is going to get better at doing these things too. And I've seen that it's supposed to be able to pick out. I've seen it say that it picks, let's say, like the sentiment of conversation. So it's starting to add things like Joe and this person agreed or they disagreed about this thing. So it's not just saying what happened, it's putting some analysis on what was being said and how it was being said, which is kind of creepy. Along with the recap, it's Microsoft licensing, so this is where it gets a little weird. The intelligent recap comes with Teams Premium. It's the easiest way to buy it. It's per user, per month, so you can try it out in the CSP model month to month, try it out for people in the meetings the most. But also, if you have Copilot licensing, Copilot for Microsoft 365 assigned to a user, they also get this. So there's an overlap. So if you have Copilot, you already have this. If you have Teams Premium, you get this. But then you don't get the banner on the right-hand side, where if you have Copilot and you join a meeting late, it will give you a prompt like, would you like me to catch you up on what's happened in this meeting so far? And then it spits out like action items and things talked about. You can summarize a meeting. You can ask questions about the content of a meeting. So that can be really powerful if you're tragically late to meetings like I always am. Here's an example of what the branding looks like. So this is ours. Our marketing team does a great job with our branding and our colors and our logos and stuff. So we wanted to put that out there so you can kind of see what that looks like. And it stands out. It doesn't look like a generic Teams meeting. So here's an actual meeting recap of a project that we were talking to with a customer. And you can kind of see it was talking about like Nutanix and Arctic Wolf and SentinelOne. So it's picking up like very specific technical things out of our conversation. And talk about SQL licensing, which is a terrible thing anyway. But on the Copilot side, there's an example. I like to joke with a particular salesperson that on a meeting, I say he has a word limit. Like, you talk too much. You're out of words, no more talking. This is a half an hour call. We got to get something done. I started asking it questions like, I wonder what it can do. So I asked the question, who talked the most in this meeting? I wasn't able to figure that out, but I said, how many words did each person say in the meeting? And it was able to figure that out. And I won or lost, I can't tell. But those are the types of things you can do. You can like recap the meeting. You can, since it's transcribed, you can join the meeting recap after the fact and do the same thing because it's just a bit of information that Copilot can go through. Now, the important thing to remember about every meeting being recorded and transcribed is every meeting is recorded and transcribed. So be polite. Because if you say somebody's name and you say something unpleasant and it picks that up, they're going to be mentioned. And so after the fact, oh, you were mentioned one time in this meeting. Oh, so it's important. We've had cases where people have kind of said some things about things. We're all people. We all make mistakes and get frustrated. And so, all right, we got to go delete that recording just so we don't ruffle any feathers. It happens, but it is something in today's world, everything is recorded, everything is transcribed. Just be nice. So kind of here we're talking about Teams Premium and the benefits we have, and that blue bar is the overlap between you get Intelligent Recap in Teams Premium for $7 a user a month, and then Copilot for $30 a user a month. But you also get all of the other benefits of Copilot. So you don't have to do both. If you're interested in this, I would recommend putting that $7 license on your meeting-heavy people. Usually your executives, anybody who's willing to try this kind of stuff out or interested in it. But you may have a different subset of people who like Copilot and want to dick around with it when it comes to documents and other things like that. So the two ways to get that product. So, Tate, how do we get?
Poo-poo. Ah. Move that right over here. So if we want to flip back to that, thank you. So device is fully set up here, just having me do the end user stuff. So it pushed out a Windows Hello profile to my machine for my configuration on there. So I can now tell it, this is my new super secure pin. You can hit enter on here, and then it will get us here to our desktop. And a couple of things that you can kind of see that happened in the background while I was sitting there. This is joined to our domain. So if I do a quick at the account, boop, boop. You can see it's at netcenter.net on there. Then you can also see that we had applications get pushed out to it. So I have Chrome pushed out, I have Adobe, I have the Office suite on there, I have Java pushed out to it, I have 7-zip on there, and these are just applications that I did that I thought of. But again, just about anything can be pushed out through Intune in this manner. Some are super simple, some take a little bit of scripting, just kind of depends on the application itself. But now I have a fully secured device and I'm ready to rock and roll and start working for it. So if you want to flip back then. So just real quick to talk about the two states of the flow with Autopilot. When you do it, there is a device flow. This is typically where I would tell you put all your security stack and your security configurations that you want on it, because that is going to hit every single device out there. And so you also can do like your Office and your Adobe, something that again every app will use, end user will use. And then you have your user flow, and then this can be specific when that user logs in. Different configurations and different applications will get pushed out to them. So if I am Tate with marketing or graphic design, when I log into a computer, maybe it pushes out the Adobe full cloud suite. So I get Photoshop, Premiere, and that stuff like that. Or when Tate logs in and I'm the IT professional, I get our remote agent or I get our PSA agent on there. So I can kind of do those two different things. And that wraps her up.
So, anybody have any questions? Questions get candy.
Questions do get candy. We're not going to throw because we're blind.
Yeah, we can't see anything.
On the Autopilot setup there, when you're doing custom apps,
Yep.
say it's like AutoCAD or Bluebeam or even Adobe, how are those uploaded? Like, how do you get configurations in there? How do you get the setup files in there?
Yeah, so there is something called the Intune Win app packager. It's provided by Microsoft. It gives you a little exe. Again, depending on the application, if you get an MSI, it's super intelligent. You can just put it into a folder, tell the wrapper to wrap that folder, and it will know what to do with that MSI, and it'll get it pre-configured. I've had to do not simple ones like that, where maybe the installation was actually a JavaScript, and I had to like rewrite that in PowerShell, and then I can tell that the executable file, instead of being in like an MSI or an exe, I can have it be a PowerShell script. And so when Intune kicks off that app, it actually runs that PowerShell script, and it will then do everything that I want it to do. So let's say it has a prerequisite of, in order to have this, you need, good example, the Zoom plugin for Outlook. Obviously, you need Outlook installed first. I can tell it to install Outlook or the 365 suite in that PowerShell script first, then attempt the Zoom plugin. So you can do those kind of things and get a little bit more complex. With those applications, then they take a little bit more time to do that scripting and figure it out, but can easily be done once it's kind of set up. That's a good question, though.
For like Kobo devices that aren't Windows devices.
Yeah.
Your iOS type stuff. How does Intune play nicely in terms of like security features and things like that?
Yeah, so when we talk Mac devices, Android devices, iOS, iPad, Intune, if you just natively join a device into it with Intune, it will basically be a BYOD device. Apple has something that's called Apple Business Manager. And so if you have any Apple products in your fleet, iPhone, iPad, Mac, I highly, highly recommend getting Apple Business Manager configured for your environment. It's free. You just got to talk to Apple, which for some people they don't like that, but it's free and you can do it. If you don't do Apple Business Manager, when someone logs into an Apple device and they use an iCloud account that may or may be their personal account, regardless who purchased the receipt, in Apple's eyes, that device is owned by that person. So if that end user quits or leaves, turns in their device, you wipe it, activation lock is set up to that person's personal iCloud account. And so if you left on bad terms, you now have a fancy paperweight. You can call Apple, go through the receipts, go through support, but that just takes some extra time and money, and maybe that device isn't worth it at that point. So that's how you get into the actual Kobo state. When you're in that ABM state in Apple, then it's actually a fully supervised stuff, so you have even more features and configurations you can do for it. Android has something very similar called Android Enterprise, same kind of concept. You put it into Android Enterprise, and Android Enterprise then talks to Intune and then enrolls it into your environment.
On the Teams recap stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you said whoever starts the meeting, is that whoever creates the meeting?
Yep.
Or whoever?
Whoever creates it.
Okay.
Yep.
So you could check, if you had one or two people that started, publish the meetings for a lot of stuff. then it would-
Yeah, we typically have our scheduling team set it up, and they have the Teams premium license, so they own the recording at that point also. So they set it up for us. They may not even join it, but all that's information is there and available. Yep. Yep. So at most, one more question, because we need to vacate the room because somebody else needs to get in here, and we talked too long. Last time we did this for a user group, it was like an hour and a half, because they asked like a half an hour of licensing questions, which is super dirty. Like, I've never had that ever. But it was a good time. If nothing else, thanks for coming. If you have any questions, find Tate and myself. We'll be around. We have other presentations out today, but catch us, send us an email, anything. We'd like to connect. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.